We are back in TruthWorks studio again, a place where we bring together some of the brightest minds in the people and culture space. And today we're here with Ty Jernstedt, who works as a leadership and team coach. And we're going to be talking all about trust today. So Ty, why trust? What kind of work do you do? Tell us more about you.
Yeah, so a bit about myself, from the US originally, as you can tell by the accent, unfortunately. Having gotten rid of it over the years. I've been living.
Charming.
It's charming. I have been on a journey of working for 10 years in marketing and communications, and made the switch about 23 years ago into the space of development. Realized selling Happy Meal toys and creating and producing these Hello Kitty dolls for the Asian markets was a great thing when I was working in Hong Kong. But there was something else that was needed that was more maybe fulfilling of my life purpose. So I became a certified coach to really work with individuals, which then morphed into working in leadership development when I joined Nike at their European headquarters just outside of Amsterdam here, which then moved into diversity and inclusion, whereas working as a global director to really look at how do we shift the culture of the organization to tap into the diversity of thoughts, create a culture that's more about innovation and openness and collaboration. Moved to Berlin for 2 years to work in culture and engagement, working at how do we define and redefine our values, launch our new purpose. They hadn't started their IND journey quite yet. So working with our management board to define this work, why is it important for the organization? What are we going to focus on? It's kind of my side gig.
Wow.
And then was leading a group called the Development Studio, where we had people working on leadership development, professional development, and org development. And they decided it was time to come back home to Amsterdam about 8 years ago. And I've been working in those areas of leadership and team development, inclusion, culture change, engagement, employee experience, and kind of work as a coach for individuals or teams, or do advising work. Don't like the C word so much, so consulting, like to advise people.
It's a dirty word. We
It's a
don't
very
say
judgy
it in
word.
this space.
So how do I advise people on their strategies or roadmaps, or how do I design experiences, be it a workshop, an offsite, a get together for groups, or come in to facilitate that work.
So you've seen organizations from the inside. You've obviously then decided that you can help them more from the outside. How does that inside or out perspective help with the work that you do?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think when you're inside, you're more obviously embedded. So you know more the dynamics and so forth, which allows you to see a lot of things, and then also doesn't allow you to see some things because you're in it. So when you're outside, yes, you don't fully see everything. You're kind of coming in, doing a quick analysis, having interviews, focus groups, surveys to get a sense of what is really happening here. What is the root cause of what's happening? And then you have that objective point of view of, hey, here's what I think I'm seeing based on what I'm hearing. Here's what I think we could be doing to create that systemic change and shift in your organization, either through your talents or the culture, or ideally should be the both perspectives. And let's work on it together, and then not being attached. Because if you don't do what I think you should do, that's fine. It's, again, your organization better, but I'm not attached with what you do and how you do it, because I'm going to be maybe off to the next client to work with them. So it's great to be on your own, to have a way to design the work, where it's hard to have what I do now in an internal role. But then you miss the team, you miss the long-term conversations with groups to see what you're doing. Is it creating that systemic change? Because sometimes you're kind of one and done. Unfortunately, you have no idea. Did it change the people? Did it change the culture, or both, or not? So
the frustrating part
it's frustrating
being
of being on the outside.
So recently you've been focusing on trust as a topic, and you've really positioned yourself around this idea of trust being a key to unlocking change within organizations, unlocking the way teams work together, but also what leaders can build with employees as well. Why have you focused on trust?
For me, trust has always been a running theme through my work of even working in marketing and communications, and looking back of where was there trust, and when that was happening, how was I feeling about bringing my, as much of myself as I want to bring to the organization, my ideas, my perspectives, enjoying where I was working, or It was not a great place to work, where there was a lot of bitching and moaning and finger pointing and the blame game and just nastiness because there wasn't that trust. And then moving into the space of working with leaders, working with teams, working with organizations, this was a topic that no matter where I was working in leadership development or inclusion or culture change, it was a topic that kept popping up again and again and again, to then say, well, I need to have a second organization, a second company that really dives deeper into that topic, looking at how leaders can lead with more trust, either as they join a new organization or a new team, to build that foundational trust from the get-go. Instead of burying themselves out of a ditch they built themselves into by not communicating effectively, having that ownership of, well, I know everything, I'm going to tell you what to do and how to do things, how they can align better with their people, or hey, they had their team for some time, how do I lead them through those key moments that matter, one-on-ones, performance conversations, team meetings, to make sure that as they're communicating, as they're engaging, that they're building trust and they're monitoring what is the trust level within my team, or hey, not just the leader's job to infuse more trust within that team. Hey team, let's work together to figure out what are our issues, where do we have trust, where do we not have trust, how can we create that systemic change based on that root cause we've found, and then have an intentional, targeted, specific plan to make that improvements. Or hey, we're working with that team over there or that office or that department, what's working, what's not working, and really find better ways of working together versus, again, keep playing the blame game, their problem over there. We're not communicating effectively with that group. We're not collaborating effectively. So how do we intentionally not focus on what we do, but how we do it to be more effective?
Yeah, I like that idea of how we do it. So I think I work with a lot of leaders as well who I think crave trust or expect trust from their people, but don't necessarily know how to go about it. So what are some of the things you recommend when working with leaders?
Yeah, so when I first came across this trust equation that was developed by some researchers who wrote a book around the trusted advisor, and it kind of brought it all together for me. And so I bring that to groups, and I've kind of evolved it a bit using different terminology, but basically the same principles. So one is around credibility. So do you think I come from a place of expertise or not? Am I using my credibility and my expertise to benefit the team, either a project team or my team that I'm leading, to be more effective, be more impactful in what they're doing? The second element is around connection. So do I know you? Do I know what's important for you, what you stand for, your values, what you want in life, not just in your corporate life or organizational life, professional life, but in your personal life? Do we understand your triggers and that kind of things? So that's super important to have that understanding of each other. So the third area is around consistency. So am I being able to deliver on time when I say I will at the level that we agreed to or not? I've also adapted to look at the consistency of how you're showing up. Now, yes, we all have our good days and bad days, but can we manage ourselves to be the similar kind of person day in and day out versus day one? I am high as a kite, super excited. Day two, I am a tyrant with my teams. How can I be consistent in how I'm showing up for people to trust who they're going to be working with? And then the last area is around care. So do you think I care more about myself and my own wins, or do I care more about your wins, your success, your well-being, or our collective success? So it's really helping leaders understand, well, hey, if I feel there's a trust issue, what is it exactly in those four areas? Give a rating to it to figure out, well, based on person A, B, C, D, and E, who do I have the highest trust score with? And then if whoever I have the lowest, what is the root cause? What are these four areas do I need to really focus on and be intentional to have certain conversations to improve with that person in that one area to up that trust score?
So 4 C's. Easy
Yes.
for us to remember, right? So we've got credibility, connection, consistency and care.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sounds simple on paper. Why do you think leaders and teams are struggling so much with these 4 things? Is there something going on more recently? It feels like we're living in an era of mistrust. Do we feel like this is more of a topic than it's ever been?
I think it's always been a topic. It's probably more heightened now based on what's happening within governments, within the media, and so forth, and how polarized we are all getting in terms of sticking with our people who think like us and believe how we are. And if you are not that, You are them, you are the problem, which obviously is not going to help you build trust with people who have different perspectives and ideas. So with this work and how it connects into like the inclusion work is, how do we be open with each other, how we have empathy with each other, how we shift our worldviews where there's not just a way of showing up in the world, there are different ways. And how can we step into that intersection of the different perspectives, ways of doing things to have that best solution moving forward? And we need to trust each other to be able to go into that vulnerable, open space that's not comfortable for us or a place we like to normally go to, but we need to be seeing people for who they are, where they're at, to be able to work with them, or it's just going to be a horrible place to work. You're going to be not engaged. You're going to not want to go to work. You're going to have one eye out the door of what's next. Where can I go where I can find people where I can have that trust, where I feel that we are connected. We care for the collective success versus the individual success.
I read the Edelman Trust Barometer every year with interest, obviously with a pinch of salt. But I do think it's interesting seeing the trends over the years. And I always feel like they position business as having an opportunity to build deeper trust than, say, even government or media, for example, which, of course, we have huge mistrust for at the moment. Yep. So how can business really lean into this trust equation and the idea that this could actually be a space of care, a space of connection?
Yeah, so there's different levels of the organization where this work needs to happen. There's the organization systemic level that needs to be looked at in terms of the policies, practices, technology that's being used. That's going to either create the space of openness, collaboration, creating more connection, valuing the time that people spend, not just at their desk, chugging away at their Excel spreadsheets or whatever they're doing, but actually spending time to get to know each other. Go have a team offsite or a team meeting, a team get together where, yes, you can still talk about work, but get to know each other at that individual level, where that's the time they're not being productive in that moment necessarily, but that is going to be a long-term dividend of creating that connection to build that trust. Teams need to look at ourselves of, hey, how are we showing up in our team meetings? And when we're not in the same space together, either digitally or physically, how are we sending emails or Slack messages to each other? Are we tapping into our credibility? Are we leveraging it? Do we even know what we're good at? Are we staying accountable and consistent with delivering when we say we will or not? If not, how do we shift ourselves at that team level? And then at the individual level, if you are a leader, and I think just because you're a people leader does not mean you're the only leader in the organization. Everyone is a leader in their own way. How can I look at how am I showing up? Am I being consistent with others? Am I getting people to know me? Do I spend time to get to know them? Am I showing through my words and my actions that I do care that you are being successful? It's not just, I'm going to make sure I'm good at the end of the day. Could care less of how you're doing over there. I'm just going to keep my head down, stay in my lane, or I'm actively doing things to show that I really am invested in your success or our collective success. So if it just looks at the individual level, really hard to change an organization because things aren't happening at the team level or the organizational level, or if you just look at, let's just ship a new policy or have a new tool to help create more connection across other groups and other teams, well, you're not solving for the interdisciplinary approach to this work that has to happen around talent, culture, and the intersection of that work to really drive that change, to really have an organization where people do feel that, yes, I do trust where I work. And as you mentioned before, I think companies have, or organizations have, a real responsibility because we spend a ton of time in this. We don't spend a ton of time with our governments. We don't spend a ton of time with the media, the little snippets we get through however we get our news.
It's a different kind of engagement. Right?
It's a different kind of engagement. And organizations have to look at, hey, when our people are coming into our space, how do we make sure that our people are able to trust each other? And what can we do to make sure we're not just looking at the bottom line or looking at all the to-dos that we have to do to achieve our strategy? It's going back to, hey, pause, let's take a step back. How are we doing this work? How are we showing up together? Is it bringing more trust? Is it bringing more inclusion? Is it bringing more belonging, empathy, innovation? If not, you might as well stop, regroup, reassess, go in a different direction instead of beating your head against the wall again and again and again, doing the same things over and over because you think you're too busy to pause and reflect and analyze and also own up to your contribution to the low trust score.
Yeah. Do you think that some of the sort of factors that have broken trust between employees and their companies are things like changing return to office policies, things like employee virtual monitoring, obviously like communication of layoffs or hiring promises being retracted, for example. Do you think there are specific factors that have shown up over the last few years that are really breaking trust?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you hear the headlines and read the articles of in organizations, they do a mass layoff. It's communicated by an email or people are given a box as they enter into their office to clean things up. That's a massive break in trust. I mean, the ones who are still going to be there, it's really hard to trust an organization that would treat people like this. And if you don't have the credibility to lead this organization in a way where you're having to very quickly lay off a bunch of people, am I going to trust my leadership to be able to take us to the next phase? And yes, things have to be adjusted. Economies shift and change. I get that as well. But it's like how you do this work. People are looking. They're watching. How are you doing this stuff? And if you're doing it in a way that's not caring for your people authentically or really connecting with them and saying, hey, and having empathy for them, people are going to be like, hey, this is not a great place. I can't trust it, both as an employer, but also I'm not going to purchase their products and goods if that's how they treat their people. So these experiences that companies are creating for their people, it is going to help raise that trust. It may not be pleasant or easy, but if they're doing it in a caring way and they're really doing it with empathy, people will not love it or like it, but they will understand and see that the company is trying to do their best to right the ship and go a different direction. But through that, they're truly caring for their people. And you can not really talk your way through a behavior that got you into that problem. So if you're not behaving in a way that's showing trust, people are not going to buy the cheap talk that leaders will give, because that's a bunch of BS.
Yeah, it has to be sincere indeed. Yeah. I always think that trust is hard to earn and quick to break. So I think in those examples you shared, how would you recommend that companies go about communicating or handling difficult situations?
Yeah, so I always look at it as also a bit of a trust bridge or trust block. Trust bridge, it takes time to build that bridge for people to go over it into that land of full trust. A block it's coming down right away and you aren't going anywhere. So as leaders are communicating about a big change in an organization with either a policy of return to home, can they show that we have done the work? We have talked to people. We have not been sitting in our ivory tower or what I call the HR bubble to make this decision on our own. We have engaged you in your perspectives, your ideas. Doesn't mean we're going to take all of them on board, not possible, but we're going to truly listen, do the best that we can do to intersect the needs of the organization, the needs of our people, and be really clear and articulate of explaining the why, what they try to do. We do hear your needs, and here's what we could do with that. Here's what we couldn't do with that because of reasons A, B, and C. Be as transparent as you can be with this work, and just basically after you speak, follow through with actions of we're going to be on this journey together, hand in hand, to find a better way and a new way to achieve what the organization needs and achieve what you need. But it cannot be, finger pointing them, I know better. That's just not going to work.
Okay, so if I'm a leader and I think I might have a trust problem, how do I know fundamentally that that's what it is and that it's deep underlying trust issues and not just, for example, a comms issue or a specific disagreement that's happened within the team?
There'd be a few signals that may point to there might be this trust issue, escalating emails going back and forth with bigger CC chains going more and more, bigger, and bigger. When there's a meeting, and then there's the real meeting, which is the after meeting, where things really get decided or really get discussed. When you're in those meetings, how do you look at what's being talked about and not talked about? Mm-hmm. And you find out that actually there was an after meeting where the real decision was made, well, then there's probably a trust issue that people don't trust that they can share their point of view, that their point of view is going to be valued or respected, don't want to rock the boat because they don't trust the level of confidence in the team dynamics. That's better be where it's safer to not talk to you directly, but I'll talk to someone else about it to then resolve things would be an issue around that. When we are not delivering when we say we will continually, there's going to be a breakdown in trust when that's not happening. So it's looking at these kind of 4 C's to figure out, okay, what is happening in this moment? Do we not have the expertise in this topic? We need to upskill very quickly or bring people in because we're not solving for what needs to be solved for in the way that it can be or should be. Are we not spending time to get to know each other? We're blaming each other, finger pointing, throwing things over the fence for that other group to figure out or the other person to deal with. These are the things that there may be an issue of what is happening in our dynamics that's allowing us not to be at our full high performing selves based on this level of trust. That's not where it needs to be. And then you basically need to pause again the work. We're not talking about what we're all working on. What is happening here? Let's have an honest conversation around these 4 areas. Where is it working? Where is it not working? What can we collectively do and commit to create that change? And then yes, as a leader, what do you need from me to help shift those dynamics and create that culture of trust? And here's my expectations of you, team, as your leader, to also continually, as you're doing the work, shift the way you're doing it. And we're not asking you to do more. It's just changing how you're doing things currently to continually build trust as you're doing the work. As we're dealing with our pressures we're getting from the economy, from the organization, from up high, what can we control? Is basically how we show up with each other.
So it might be small interventions, for example, or it could also be bigger things. Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, it could be a simple, hey, in a team meeting, let's talk about this topic of trust. How are we feeling about it? What can we do about it? Where there's a good solid level of trust, it's a good place to do that. Where there's not high trust, you may need to pull in someone like myself to help facilitate the conversation, to mitigate the kind of fiery attitudes and perspectives that may exist. There may be some skill building that may be needed to, hey, if I'm going to make sure that you're being more consistent, how can I be better at empowering you? How can I be better at keeping you accountable? There are tips and tricks to do that. There's some behavioral shifts around conversational intelligence. Like, how are we talking with each other to make sure we are talking in a transformational way where it calls for that, not a positional way where I've got my point of view, you've got your point of view, and we get into what's called the tell, sell, yell. I'm going to tell you my perspective. I'm going to sell it to you, and I'm going to yell it at you until you buy my way. And you might be doing the same back to me. How do we kind of shift that? And that takes skill. So it's a bit of an experience to get them to talk about it, to learn about it, to practice it. It could be team coaching along the way where, yes, a one-off experience is not going to drastically create systemic change. If you work with them as a collective team, as a system over time, you can keep looking at, okay, where are we now, team? Where have we made progress in building trust in this certain aspect of our trust that was not helping us in the past? Are we making traction? If we are, what's enabled that? How do we amplify that? If we're still stuck on a couple of things, why are we still stuck, team, on this way we were working before? Again, what is a new way, a new approach we can take to continually move? So it's kind of being able to wear the different hats I've been wearing over the long time to say, is it a coaching moment? Is it more advising? Is it more designing experiences for them to get in there into the space to work through it together? Or then it's facilitating if they can't do that amongst themselves.
Got it. So it could be anything from sort of changing a meeting dynamics, like saying we're going to ask open-ended questions. We're all going to ask each other something that leads with curiosity instead of as a sort of a finite point, or allowing space for disagreement and like healthy debate, things like that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's sometimes taking them out of their environment to have these conversations, do this behavior shifting, building up these certain skills. And then also, more importantly, is when the rubber hits the road, when they're in their team meetings, how are they showing up? So in this, if I can't be brought in, it's giving them some guidance of, hey, before you start the meeting, let's set some ground rules, or let's be intentional of, hey, team, we're working on this one aspect of our dynamics. Let's put something on the table. If we're all physically together or virtually, that's a reminder of like an ampersand. We're going to yes and each other as we do this work. And if we see it, we're going to remind ourselves, oh yes, we committed to this, versus last week we talked about it, but we're all busy. We can easily forget things.
And that backslide of old
behaviors, because it's very easy to slip back into how we used to do things. So if I can't be there to be that reminder, the trigger, the mirror, team, this is what I'm seeing, and what are you seeing right now? Equip them to be able to have those conversations among themselves, because I can't be brought in I'm one person. I can't be brought in all over the place. And more importantly, they need to learn how to do this themselves.
Yes.
As a leader to a team, but also as a team collectively. What could they do differently in these key moments that matter, which are, team meetings, project meetings, one-on-ones, and so forth.
Great. And can you give us some examples without naming names of some of the work that you've done, some of the transformations that you've helped bring about? It'd be really interesting to hear some examples.
Yeah, there was one time I was brought in where there were two teams that were working, doing different work, but in different sides of the work, but they had to work together to be successful. The teams over time, it was not working. There was the escalations to the head office of what was happening because that group didn't do this, they didn't deliver on this, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Kind of yelling at times when they're working with each other. So it was not being effective of how they could collaborate. So they said, hey, can you please come in and just facilitate conversations, help them understand that why is this happening? And why does it keep on happening? What can we do to shift things? So through the interviews with some of them ahead of time to get a sense of what is actually happening, this topic of trust, there was not that trust between team A and team B. So we explored using the trust equation. What is it exactly that is causing this breakdown in trust as you work across each other? Once we've identified this one or two problem areas, why is it a problem exactly? What's the root cause? And what can you do to solve it? What are you willing to commit to continue to build trust in that one specific area and get better at it?
Yeah, well, that's interesting that I can't imagine you want to stay in this environment. What does trust unlock? Do you have to create a sense of urgency and imperative to get people to take trust seriously?
I think some are already there. I think they are there. They know it's a problem. They know it needs to be fixed. And maybe trying to nudge their dynamics into that space. But if you're one person trying to move many, it's hard to do that based on where you sit on that team. Some know it's an issue, but don't know what to do with it. Or it's the basic what I hear all the time. I don't have time.
Yes.
I don't have time to have this conversation with this group. I got a long list of things I got to get done today. So it's making sure they understand that, yes, it is a short-term investment for a long-term dividend. So how will you have to? I mean, again, if I go back to my own experiences, I could have done better in past jobs in my marketing world and even working in parts of the HR space of, having that conversation with that individual or that team saying, we know there's an issue. We're all talking about it behind each other's back. Let's sit down and really knock it out and be open and honest and vulnerable and own up to what we need to own up to, because it's not always your problem. I'm also contributing it. How do we really look at how are we engaging with each other now? How can we make that improvements moving forward and work kind of hand in hand, together, looking out there versus this combative way, and using our emotional intelligence and building up those capabilities to have empathy, understand where I'm at, how I'm impacting someone else, how other people are feeling, how I can shift and change that. And then using our conversational intelligence of the words that we use, because words create worlds for other people. How do we use the space and have more of that transformational conversation? We are open to each other. We're building trust as we're solving a very complex issue or a very sensitive issue, very stressful issue. But we need to really be in that space of openness, collaboration, curiosity, to create that solution versus be back into that, well, I know better. Because
do you think it comes from fear sometimes?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yes, that absolutely could be a fear-based thing of I'm stepping into a space I don't quite understand. Let me go back into where I'm very comfortable, or I'm with people, like I was working in an organization that was very numbers driven, very analytical. That is not me. I understand the value of it 100%, but I just am not in that space. So I could easily retract back to finding my tribe of people who are like myself, who obviously I understand, I can see their approach. I value their approach because that's exactly how I would do that. But that's just not going to work. We're not going to be truly being more collaborative. We're not going to be driving innovation because we're constantly doing things the same way and not being open to trying things differently and value. If you're a very analytical person, I may find you very frustrating to work with at times. And I may fear that because I don't get it all the time. I don't see Excel is not my thing. I don't know how to use it as much. But if I have someone who does know that, there's beauty that brings to the work. There's beauty that brings to how I do the work, being more visionary, a bit more feeling and intuition to create change or make decisions. It's really being able to get over the fears, stepping into that outside the comfort zone to really be in someone else's space, learn from them, adapt. Like both of us coming here to the Netherlands, our cultures are similar where we're not as direct as they are here in the Netherlands. But if I resist that and say, well, that's horrible, they're just all rude and yada, yada. If I'm not saying, well, there is value of being direct at times where if you be indirect, doesn't always get the message across. So how can we step into that space and not let fear or the unknown create those barriers? We've got to step into that, be it from a different culture, a different background, different political belief. We have to be able to be in space together.
Very important and increasingly important. I do wonder if a lot of our fear comes from, I'm afraid of someone that's other than me because of what it reveals about myself and my own vulnerabilities. I was thinking actually, as you were talking also about generational mistrust and this fear that a lot of older workers have in the workplace of the younger generation and I guess vice versa as well. And I think some of that comes from a fear of being found out or a fear of not understanding each other. Is that also something that you see in your work?
Yeah, very much so. Definitely in the space of inclusion, it came up quite often where I'm glad people are thinking about it more. It's not just gender, race, sexual orientation, so forth. There are many dimensions of diversity that make us different and make us who we are. So in these conversations with groups, this topic would come up where the veterans of the organization were called the dinosaurs. You're stuck in the old ways. You can't evolve. You can't adapt, and so forth. And yes, some people in that group absolutely were showing up that way, but it's not a blanket statement of this whole group should be put out to pasture. Same as that group working at the newbies, the younger generations. You don't know better.
All the snowflakes,
I
all
know,
the ones that
I
don't
know better
want to
because
work.
I've been around the block many more times than you. Whatever you think and feel should be done with the brand or the business, you don't know. So I'm going to cut you down. I'll be dismissive of what you can do. So it's the dismissiveness that is also the derailer of innovation and engagement, where again, if I'm feeling less than because I'm being told you're too old or you're too young, you've been here too long, you haven't been here long enough. Yes, those perspectives are needed to have a good conversation and a healthy debate. Bit of a devil's advocate if you need that to be in the mix of really challenging what are we doing and why are we doing it. And yes, the new people in the organization, that's the gift they bring is I'm not of this world. I am not used to doing things this way. And where I came from, it was done in a different way that was probably more impactful. They are the ones who generally are better able to question and ask, like, how was this done this way? Because those who have been around in an organization for a long time are like, sometimes they can answer. It's like, that's just the way it's always been. They didn't stop and think, oh, is there a better way to do this process? Is there a better way to have a conversation to create and form a strategy or execute that strategy? But as soon as we start dismissing someone because they're not of our tribe and are not like us, it's just not going to work. And it's going to cause more distrust between us versus them in those dynamics. If it's generational, it's function to function, office to office, headquarters to regional office to local office. It's the dismissiveness that I have seen numerous times. Just does not help you all to come together as one team.
And see them as drivers of each other.
And drivers of each other, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fundamentally human, this idea of trust and mistrust. But of course, we now have technology in the mix, and increasingly so with AI. So how do you think that changing element within the workforce is impacting trust?
I think it can impact it in different ways. So one, when you're getting something from someone else, are you trusting where it's coming from? Is it their own point of view, or they've copied and pasted something they got from Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever else they use? I think there's always that, what am I getting here and where is it coming from? And how did you come to this point is going to cause some questioning of the trust in that. I'm also hoping that, yes, if AI is helping us to work more faster and more effective, great, we got more time to spend with each other and build up that connection and time. Because before we were stuck in developing these, strategies and developing these decks and putting the PowerPoints together and everything else. But if now AI can do a lot of that grunt work, great. We have more time to spend time again with our people. If you're a leader or a colleague or a peer, to say, hey, how are we working together, and spend more time on the how, because a lot of the what has been taken care of by AI mostly.
Yeah, super interesting. I also wonder if increasingly it could help us to communicate more effectively and break down some of those trust barriers by helping leaders, stress test their own comms, for example. Leaders and employees of different generations actually shape the way they communicate by testing things with AI. I've heard of a lot of colleagues creating sort of versions, AI agents of their leadership team, and thinking, okay, what would this leader say if I ran it through them this way? Or how should I position my argument in a way that will have cut through? Do you think there's also opportunity there to build
Yeah,
trust?
100%. I'm still a newbie in the space of AI. So there's also things I could be using that I just don't even know I could be using. But like this stuff like this is absolutely what can be happening. Is how do we create our board, our virtual board of who's going to be questioning us or having us be able to articulate better, or even through this trust lens of, hey, if I'm talking in this way, how's this going to be perceived? Do people think I'm caring about them or not? Do I need to be able to find a better way to articulate that, yes, I'm making this decision on behalf of the organization, and I'm doing that because I do care about your success. It's not just me getting a bigger bonus and all these other things. So I think having these check-in points that, yes, if I had to do that myself and schedule one-on-one meetings with a bunch of people to get their feedback, using AI, it's like it's instantaneous. Getting the feedback of, yes, your communication is not clear, or it's going to show that you're caring about just the business. You're not showing the empathy for people. You're not articulating, as you mentioned before, the why enough. And they're going to be questioning these things. So make sure as you're crafting your speech, you better articulate these kind of key points. And then when you get there to expressing it, you're hopefully going to be better able to be really concise, be informative, be inspiring as you're engaging with the people in the physical world.
You mentioned a virtual board. Can you expand on that a little bit?
I think it's just like what you talked about is you've created your AI team. They have different personalities. They have different perspectives. It could be the analytical person, the visionary person, the people person, the sales, numbers driver, and then having them have the diversity of thoughts come into what you're putting into AI to then give you different perspectives. Well, from this perspective, it could be perceived this way or misperceived. And it can just really quickly give you that feedback instantaneously to know, okay, yes, this message was not clear enough, or this decision is going to be perceived in a certain way that is not what I intended. But I can get that quick feedback to know, that if it's potentially could have been unintended impact with me just delivering it with my people, I got to find a better way to position it, communicate it, or even question, should this even be the decision because of the potential pushback, or I didn't do a good enough job, or or not doing the due diligence to fact checked and get different perspectives before we, either me as a CEO or my leadership team, making a decision. Have we gone around to make sure we haven't missed something because of where we sit? We see things from a certain viewpoint, which is a valid viewpoint, but it's not always the viewpoint. The most junior people in the most remote office also has a viewpoint that is sometimes even more valued because they're the ones who are receiving.
Or plug in your pulse survey, results and say, given, where my organization is at, how will this decision or change be perceived? Help me consider it from all angles. I think there's a lot of opportunity to, get that input in a way that feels less vulnerable maybe than going directly to your colleagues or asking your peers. It's sort of a safe space also for leaders.
Yes, because you're not going to anger, at least what I know of AI, you're not going to be angering.
Yet.
Yes, at least, hopefully that's smart enough to have those emotional aspects. So yes, you can, in a very trusting space, put things out there, and you're not going to damage a reputation or a relationship with someone else that you are going through this conversation with. So it can help in many ways. We just also have to be in the driver's seats of not just take a copy and paste approach to whatever you get from whatever tool you use as this is the truth. This is how I'm going to do things. We still have to use our brains to say, okay, yes, I get most of what you're telling me I should be doing, but I'm still going to adjust it because this is me. And if I just did a copy and paste job, people who know me would know this is not Ty. This is coming from someplace else. And if I can't trust what you're saying, because I know it's coming from someplace else, I'm not going to buy what you're selling.
Yeah.
And then to try to build that next time, I'm digging a big hole out for myself to have to get back to the point where I was with my team, that they're going to trust when I'm coming from a certain place, that it's coming from me, it's coming from my brain, my experience, yes, with some help from AI or my leadership team or others to make this informed decision. But we have got to always just come back from that place of authenticity, and we're losing it with the slop and copy and pasting.
That's the risk, I guess. In being too polished, you lose a lot of what you were talking about up front, that kind of credibility that is coming from your own knowledge base, but also consistency in the way that you're showing up because you're being yourself. You know, as soon as you start outsourcing your brain, the gaps maybe start to show. Well, I think you've convinced me that trust is a hugely important commodity, a business imperative. If I'm a leader listening to this, if I'm an HR leader, if I'm a CEO, if I'm a team thinking, gosh, we could really use a hell of a lot of what Ty's talking about, what kind of ways do you engage with the teams? Obviously, they can go to the platform, they can book a 30-minute call with you, but what sort of work do you do? Is it longer term engagements? Do you come in for one-off workshops? Tell us more about how they can connect with you.
So I think they can pull me in different ways to supplement maybe a capacity gap or a capability gap that they have within their group. Based on the first conversation, as they go through the platform, we have a first talk of, hey, what is happening? What are the needs that you have? For me to then say, well, it makes most sense for me to coach that individual, or maybe it's coach the team, or no, an experience is needed for your group to come together, not in their normal environments, if possible, to really explore what is happening, why is it happening, what can we do? Once we have that vision of where we're heading in that North Star, let's use some time to skill build or shift behaviors to help us enable us to get there faster. And ideally, it's a journey that we're not going to solve things with one meeting, one conversation, one coaching session. It is really looking at the overall journey we're going to be creating. What experience are we going to put them on? Whereas ideally, it's a combination of maybe it's some skill building, maybe it's just coming together to talk things through, or it's, coaching to go deeper into the current experience, desired experience, and moving forward. Or, hey, let me create some tools for you to use. So as you are sitting in your meeting, you can use this quick activity to set the tone, to build that connection, build the rapport, build the trust, and then hop into the conversations. So it's really kind of plug and play based on where they're at, what their needs are, what the best solution is. And that's the hat I'm going to wear with them. And then obviously it comes down with the budgets of how much budget do they have to create that long-term journey. And if it can't be with me, then I do my best job to say, hey, the time I have with you, I'll do my best work and then give you the resources and tools for you to continue this on. And I'm going to trust that you're going to follow through versus have that be sitting in the back, the bottom drawer of your desk, because you get busy with other things, that you are the leader, not just the people leader, but you're a team leader on this team, to say, hey, team, we invested time to talk about this. We know it's an issue we have. We can do better. We need to do better. Let's continue to have this conversation without Ty being around to have the talk, have the tough talk, figure out what is our game plan to take that next incremental step in our journey, that nudge. And let's commit to, hey, this day we're going to work on this together, or next week we're going to do this together, and let's celebrate our wins. And then figure out what's not working, keep moving forward.
So you really diagnose the problem, you empower teams, and you hopefully give them a roadmap and some tools within their toolbox to take this work forward.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And just kind of customize as it needs to be customized, tailored to where they're at on their journey, their corporate culture. Everyone's has a different organizational culture. So it's not like, well, I've got this book, bam, here's my toolbox for you, go off and do that. It's got to be customized based on the culture they have, the dynamics they already have, what works, what resonates, what doesn't.
That's the beauty of working with an independent expert, is you get that customization, you really get the personal approach, and you can work with them really to meet them where they are as well.
Yes.
Lovely. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been fun.
It's one of my favorite topics. So absolutely loved having you in, and I'm sure the phone will be ringing off the hook.
That'd be great.
Take care.
Thank you.